Everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Betting with Bearman podcast presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. All the lines we talk about today presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm honored to be joined along with FanDuel betting analyst Minty Bets, who's going to help me break down the UFC 326 card. Minty, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good, David. Thank you so much for having me. Like I said, before we recorded, I feel like we've known each other for so long and have worked together in some capacity. And now this is our first face-to-face convo.
It is. And I'm excited as well. Minty is one of the guest betting analysts on FanDuel Sports Network as well. That's Monday through Friday, the Countdown live show on FanDuel Sports Network that I help produce. So I get to work with Minty there. It's mostly via email. But today we're face-to-face, and Minty, big UFC fan. So just overall, your thoughts on the season so far and what you're looking forward to most with this big card here on Saturday night.
UFC, first of all, we had one of the longest breaks we've ever had. Usually from December to January, we'll have a long break for UFC. But so far, starting off real well. Dana introduced some really good incentives that if you get a finish, you get a bonus just automatically. And the first fight of the year with Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett, amazing. And now we get Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira. I mean, the main event itself is headlined by two legends. And then all the other fights on the card are guys who are very aggressive. There are lots of finishers on the slate. And I feel like every time the UFC is back in Vegas at T-Mobile Arena, it's a guaranteed banger. So I'm really excited about this card this weekend.
The one time I went to a UFC fight, it was in Vegas. It was my first UFC experience, and it blew me away of how intense it was and the overall experience from meeting some of the guys ahead of time, like Max Holloway, to seeing John Jones fight and Holly Holmes. So I believe it was UFC 219, so you can do the math to see how long ago that was. Long time ago. But here, you mentioned the main event. It is the lightweight championship. Max Holloway is minus 225. At FanDuel Sportsbook, he's facing third-ranked Charles Oliveira. You can get it plus 168. These two have met before, which is why it's called Holloway-Oliveira 2. Your thoughts on this main event and how you expect it to go, and then, of course, what you're betting on in this one.
Well, man, this is tough. Charles Oliveira is always going to receive a ton of love. And although he's the betting underdog, he's definitely a fan favorite. I mean, he's a submission specialist. He's got over 20 finishes in the UFC. And you could probably look up his name and a ton of highlights would pop up. He's dangerous early, but he's facing Max Holloway, who guarantees violence for a full 5 rounds. And he's great in championship fights. And at minus 225, it seems a little heavy, but odds makers are giving him about a 70% chance of winning, and I think it's justified. I'm on the Max side, and I also really like this fight to go to decision. I know Max by KO might be the popular pick here at plus 190, but given an extra 10 cents, I'd go Max by decision at plus 200. He's going to want this to go a full 5 rounds, even though in 2015, Max did finish Charles, but that was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. Now, do you see differences between that fight in 2015? We're over a decade later, these two fighting again. They are titans of the industry. You had to knock out. Obviously, these guys have gone different routes since then. Do you see it going similar, or do you see it being more competitive than that?
I think it's going to be a little more competitive, and I think it's going to be a little slower than people expect it to be. I feel like a lot of people think this ends by finish, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, the total set at 3.5 rounds. So that's a sweet spot there, but I think this will go to decision. Again, both of these fighters, a long time ago, both of these fighters have taken a lot of damage since then. They've also improved since then, but Max is kind of towards the end of his career here. I think he says he's got 1 or 2 good fights left, and who knows, Charles keeps going, but I think he's also towards the end of his career. They're not going to go too hard here, which is why I think Max by decision. I think it goes a little bit differently.
It is amazing, especially with Max, that he's still fighting. And it seems like that every time I watch a UFC fight with Max in it, he gets his face pummeled, regardless if he wins or loses. Yeah. He goes 4 or 5 rounds, gets pummeled, but still wins. He never gives up. And when I first saw him fight many, many years ago, when I was in Vegas, I thought there's no way this guy's going to survive the sport, the beating he takes. But he keeps on taking it, and he's the champion. And so you like him at minus 225 to win and plus 210 to win by decision. That's Minty Bets' pick on the main event. Let's go to the co-main event where Caio Borralho is facing Reinier de Ridder in the middleweight fight. Who do you like in this one? Borralho is minus 310. He's a heavy favorite over de Ridder, who is plus 230, a little bit bigger price than we saw in the main event price. How would you break this one down?
Oh man, Caio's number just keeps climbing. I mean, he was minus 290 just last night. But this is a really tough fight because I'm a huge fan of both. I've been riding with RDR in every single one of his UFC fights since he's entered the promotion, especially as a dog. Now, he's been severely underestimated until his last fight against Brendan Allen, where he actually got finished. But both Caio and Reinier are coming off of their first UFC losses. And to be honest, I can't see Caio losing 2 in a row. And at this price of, man, from minus 290 to now what, minus 310 you said? It tells us
Yeah,
exactly
it's
what
three.
we already know.
I looked it up just before we got on because I wanted to get the most updated prices. It was 290 in the email I sent you last night, up to 310, which tells you where people are betting. And how do you see that happening with more money coming in on Caio than Reinier?
Yeah, well, the number tells us everything we need to know. He's going to control the pace. He's going to defend the takedowns well, and he's going to win the rounds. This is going to be a very technical fight, and we may not see big moments like we're used to seeing with Caio Borralho, but I would lay the 310 on him and separately bet Caio to win by decision. Again, this is kind of like the main event where a lot of people believe Caio will finish Reinier de Ridder, but I think this one goes to decision here. It's only 3 rounds, and we saw RDR struggle in 5 rounds. So this should be a competitive one, should be technical, but I like Caio to win and Caio by decision.
That is what's exciting about UFC betting. You can pick someone to win or lose, or you can also pick them by their exact decision or by points or by submission. So, Minty, in the first 2 on the card, the main event and the co-main event, you like the favorite and the favorite to go the distance. So there might be some action in these fights, but you expect both of them to go all the way.
Yes, I do. I think it'll be decided by the judges, and hopefully it'll be a clear winner as well. None of those split decisions.
Just before, yeah, at least there's less of those than there are in the boxing world, where it just seems like every boxing fight you start scratching your head at the end. Now, there have been weird decisions in the UFC, but for the most part, you can tell who won by the time the 3 or 5 rounds are over. Before we get to the main event and the co-main event, you got the bantamweight event, which is 12th ranked Rob Font getting plus 176 as the underdog to Raul Rosa Jr., who's minus 230. This is the third to last fight. It'll be the last one before we set the stage for Mr. Buffer and his main event calls. Who do you like in this one and why?
Well, I feel like I'm always on the wrong side of Rob Font fights. Ever since the Jose Aldo fight, he went on a skid, losing 5 of his 6 fights. And then he had those really good unexpected wins against Kyler Phillips and Gian Matsumoto. As for Raul Rosas Jr., we know he's a fast finisher. He's young, he's quick, he's efficient, but he can be reckless. And he also hasn't fought in almost a full year. So I do believe Rosas wins this one, but in no way am I confident picking a side. So instead
We're
of picking
going
a
to the
side,
props.
yeah, we're going to the props. So we're going to a total here. I do think I want to sprinkle a little bit on this fight to end in under 2.5 rounds at plus money. Even though the most likely outcome is going to be a decision, I'm going against the grain in this one. I mean, Rob Font is really durable. But man, Rosas is such a wild card, and he could probably submit Rob Font, even though Font hasn't been finished in, I want to say, a decade. But I'm going to go under 2.5 rounds here.
Just going under 2.5, and it's always fun betting totals in UFC as you're just watching for the clock to hit that midway point in the round, that 2:30 mark. You're just waiting for it, and then they flash up the bug that it's out over the total or doesn't make it that far under the total. It's always fun to do that. I do like totals as well. So you're going under 2.5 in the 3-round fight. Do you see it going in some ways the distance, or are you just playing the odds here?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, it probably will go to the cards. But I mean, would
You're
you
getting
rather
value.
take the plus money with the under, or would you rather, pay, some juice with the over? I'm going to go under here just because it's going to be the unpopular pick.
And before that, on the main card, you got the lightweight fight between Drew Dober and Michael Johnson. I believe I saw Michael Johnson fight when I was in Vegas. He's the favorite at minus 120, but you're also laying money on Drew Dober at minus 106. So really, Vegas and FanDuel Sportsbook are considering this a toss-up to a degree because the odds are so close. Johnson, the slight favorite, but you're liking the other guy in this one.
Yeah, to be honest, not super loving this fight, but I think Drew Dober at, well, what was plus money might be worth a look. Michael Johnson is faster. He may have higher volume, but Dober causes a ton of damage with like one-shot power. And although he has been finished before, he was known to be such a durable fighter. I mean, like people, myself, called him like the Crimson Chin, and I may still be holding on to the old Drew Dober. Plus, Michael Johnson has been known to gas out in the later rounds. So, in what is essentially a coin flip of a fight, I got to take the dog here. So, I'm going with Drew Dober.
She's taking Drew Dober, who was plus money this morning, and now he's minus 106. So keep an eye on that. Two guys laying money at this point, but Johnson is a slight favorite. I think much like you with Rob Font, I think I've been on the wrong side of every Michael Johnson fight that I've been on. So might as well fade him again with Drew Dober. You're listening to the Betting with Bearman podcast presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. I got FanDuel betting analyst Minty Bets with me today. Let's look at the first fight on the main event card. Not the first fight on the card, just the main event card, as there's plenty of prelims before that, but we're concentrating on the main event. In the middleweight fight, you got 13th ranked Gregory Rodriguez is the heavy favorite, minus 210, facing 15th ranked Bruno Ferraria, who's getting plus 162. Where are you going in this fight? Not as close as the other one, but this will kick off that main card. Who do you like here?
Yeah, and I feel like I've said this about everyone, but this one's tough because I initially liked Bruno, and he is a finisher when he wins, but I believe the right side is going to be Gregory Rodriguez here. Bruno relies more on a finish, whereas RoboCop, Gregory, can pick apart his opponents if he needs to. He's fought deeper into fights against higher level competition, and at this price, again, it seems a bit much, but it is justified. I'm on the Gregory side here.
She's on the Gregory side. And to recap, this is UFC 326 in Las Vegas at T-Mobile. She's taking the champion Max Holloway at minus 225 to beat Charles Oliveira in the main event. Also taking him to win by decision at plus 230. She also likes Caio to win at minus 310 and by decision against Reinier de Ritter at a little bit plus money. In that fight, plus 130. In the bantamweight fight, Minty likes the under 2.5 between Rob Font and Raul Rosa Jr. We're going to take a slight underdog in Drew Dober in the lightweight fight versus Michael Johnson. And in the first fight of the main card, she likes Gregory Rodriguez at minus 210 to win that one over Bruno. Is there anything else that you're looking at in this main event, in this main card, that you want to see on Saturday night?
Man, even though I chose the main event and co-main event to go the distance, I'm hoping the rest of the fights are all finishes because we like finishes and we like them to go by fast. But no, this is going to be a great card from top to bottom, and I'm just excited it's back in Vegas.
Now, it's too early to look at odds and fights for other cards. Was there anything that you want to see that you've heard rumored? And we're going a little bit off script here, but in the UFC world, do you want to see Dana put something together, or are you excited about something you think is going to happen or it's on the board moving forward as we get into this season?
You know, the White House card, I think in June is going to be a good one. It's been so top secret just around the UFC. Like my bosses will come out of a meeting from the White House card and be like, yeah, I just had the White House card meeting. Can't talk about it, guys. Can't talk about it. So I'm very intrigued because like we've heard so many rumors like, oh, there's going to be 10 title fights, or, you know, it's rumored that John Jones might fight Alex Pereira. So I don't know anything, but I would absolutely love to see John Jones back. Of course, we all kind of want Conor McGregor to make an appearance somehow. So maybe he'll be there in the stands.
But do we, has the time passed? I mean, we're talking a decade ago now, the last time this guy was relevant in the ring. I know he's been relevant everywhere else in the news, but in the ring, which has not ended well the last couple of times he's fought. It's good for the sport when he's good. It's the old Tiger Woods rule. When he's good, the sport is good. But has the time passed us by? Are you still in the, let's get Conor out there again and see if he can get his brains beat in one more time?
Yeah, no, time has definitely passed. However, I think what he does for the sport is really good. I mean, he's so controversial and he finds ways to be relevant in some way and make headlines. So him just appearing no matter what there would sell. So I don't know. I'm expecting a lot of good ones, and I'm looking forward to the White House card, which is only a couple months away.
Are you going to be at the White House card?
I don't think so. I don't know if I have clearance, but I hope so.
I would imagine if you're going to go to one, that would be a fun one to be at just because of the location and where it is and how unique it would be. Just like I had friends who went to a basketball game on an air flight, on a carrier out there in the middle of the ocean because it was something that ESPN had put on. So these are unique things going to see. I actually never thought it would happen. I know the president likes to say a lot of things. I didn't actually think this would come to fruition, but we will have a UFC event at the White House, which is going to be stunning to watch, and it's going to get crazy ratings. So that'll wrap up the UFC 329 with Minty Bets. This is the Betting with Bearman podcast presented by FanDuel, but we're not done yet, Minty. We want to talk a little bit of the NHL, another sport that you love. We're going to talk NHL futures in a minute, but I got to dive into the top story that's on my mind, that I'm sure is on many in hockey. You got the two-time defending champion Florida Panthers. You can see the book just behind me. I have the Panthers championship book there. That's the team I grew up watching and rooting for, and they were terrible for 25 years. Won 2 straight titles. On the outside looking in, they've lost the last 2 coming out of, well, they came out of the break with a win, but they've lost 2 in a row. Are they done? Are you ready to put the proverbial fork in them at least for this year? They've had a lot of injuries. Not saying the run is over. They've signed everybody for the next 5 years. But are they done for this year?
Tough to say. I really didn't pay a ton of attention to hockey until after the Olympics. And even so, there's so much variance. They're not done yet. Okay. I think the second half of the season is the most important. Yeah, they don't look good, but neither do my Vegas Golden Knights. And a lot of people don't know that I'm actually a New York Rangers fan, like a bigger fan than the Knights. And we're not doing well either, the Rangers. So I don't know if it's time to put stick a fork in it and call it done. There's still hope, but I'm looking at another team to win the Stanley Cup, and it is not the Florida Panthers, even though, I'm kind of don't take offense to this, David, but I'm kind of sick of the Panthers or the Lightning winning the Stanley Cup. Like, why is Florida so good at hockey? I don't want to see them anymore. They're like the KC Chiefs. Like, I don't want to see the Chiefs win the Super Bowl anymore.
Well, with the Panthers, and I get it because they're the bullies out there who win, and they're like to be full of themselves. They're aggressive. They play dirty at times. They take to the limit of what you can and cannot do, but they've won. And yes, you had Tampa before that and Florida now. I bring it up because it's been all over the Florida papers that I obsessively read, because they lost last night after coming out of the break with a big win over the Maple Leafs, which we thought was going to turn the tide with the Panthers. They then lost back-to-back games, and they're 10 points out of a playoff spot. There's only so many games left, but you're looking elsewhere, and the direction you're headed to win the Stanley Cup, there's a team that would like nothing more than to see the Florida Panthers done, because this team has been owned by the Florida Panthers, swept them 2 years ago in the conference finals, and then it was a gentleman's sweep last year. Your pick to win the Stanley Cup is
the Carolina Hurricanes. And I'm so sorry. I should have done a little research before coming on. And I didn't know that you were a Florida Panthers fan, but when betting, we got to be unbiased here. So yeah, I like the Carolina Hurricanes to win the Stanley Cup. I mean, they've got the best record in the Metropolitan Division. They're top 5 in goal differential. They also have a very balanced offense and a good defense. Top 10 in goals allowed and goals for. They also have scoring depth, and they really don't have to rely on just one line. I did give them out preseason. I still like them to win it all. And I think Avalanche Canes is a very real Stanley Cup matchup. I'm trying to look at the West here, and I don't really like to pick the Knights because I don't want to seem biased. And we're honestly not that good. Every time I watch a Knights game, we never win in regulation. So I'm just like, yeah, no. So Hurricanes Avs could be a good Stanley Cup matchup here. With the Hurricanes winning, I would love to see them win. I think they're a very underrated team. No one really talks about them. They don't have star players, but they have very good players.
And the Hurricanes have been a popular play the last couple of years to be that Stanley Cup champion. And they've gone out and they've put up great records, lots of points, and they just haven't gotten done. And the team that has stood in their way for back-to-back years has been the Panthers. Like I said, they've won 8 of the 9 games in the playoffs against the Hurricanes. But the Panthers aren't in it right now and likely will not make the playoffs. They're 80-1 to win the cup right now. I gave the Panthers out as a three-peat. I have them every single year, and I actually gave them out coming out of the break as one of my futures to play. You were getting them at plus 230 to make the postseason coming out of the Olympic break. And I'm thinking, all right, well, they've had the break. Tkachuk just won the gold medal. They're going to come back. They're going to fire it up, and they won that first game. They blew out Toronto, and I said, hey, they're back. They've lost 2 in a row, and what the papers are saying now is it's time to maybe think about that trade deadline coming up. Get some pieces for the future because they've had a whole bunch of injuries. But if they're gone, you're getting the Carolina Panthers at 7-1 to win the Stanley Cup. You mentioned the Colorado Avalanche at plus 290. All can be bet at FanDuel Sportsbook. Tampa Bay Lightning plus 360. Mentioned the Hurricanes plus 700. Your Vegas Golden Knights are at 850. You may not like them, but they're still the fourth shortest favorite. And then you get into the whole Connor McDavid 10-1 with the Oilers. The Stars are 17-1 and on and on and on. Is there anybody else that you would look at? You like Carolina in the East. You like Colorado in the West. Anybody else that you think could be a sneaky play out there to go to the Stanley Cup?
I'm always rooting for the Dallas Stars. Pretty much everyone against Vegas, but I'm always rooting for the Dallas Stars. I think they're a really fun team to watch. I love Jake Ottinger. So yeah, maybe the Dallas Stars are someone to look at, although I haven't paid a ton of attention to them. And I actually want to ask you, David, because you follow a little bit of hockey. Do you think Connor McDavid will ever win a Stanley Cup?
You know,
is he going to be one of those players that just never did it? Like one of the greats?
You know, it's like the Josh Allen thing. They're almost the same guy. They dominate their sport. They get their team to the postseason. And whether it's not like Josh Allen's the reason that the Buffalo Bills haven't made it to a Super Bowl. And it's not like Connor McDavid is the guy that doesn't make the Oilers get to the championship, because he was the MVP last year of the Stanley Cup playoffs. He got the trophy, even though they didn't win. And he got the most valuable player at the Olympics, even though Canada didn't win. I think he will win a cup, because I think they're going to continue building around him. It's more of, do I think a Canadian team's ever going to win a cup again, since it's been almost our entire lifetimes since they have. Right. Edmonton is still good. They've taken the Panthers to 7 games in 6 games in the Stanley Cup final. So it's not like they're getting blown out like Carolina has by the Panthers. They've been very competitive. A puck one way or another, they could easily have been the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. So they're close. McDavid has gotten a lot closer than Josh Allen has in Buffalo, where they can't get over the hump and even get to the Super Bowl. If you were to ask me the question, does Josh Allen win a Super Bowl or does Connor McDavid win a cup? I'm going to go with Connor McDavid 7 out of 10 times. Ooh. I just think that Edmonton is built better. They're going to surround him with it. And Buffalo, for whatever reason, again, McDavid's gotten close. They were in Game 7 2 years ago and Game 6 last year, not far away. Full transparency, the Bills aren't close. They haven't made the Super Bowl. They've struggled in playoff games, and Josh Allen has done everything he can to get them there. I don't think they're built right. They just got rid of their head coach, who wasn't really the problem to begin with. Yeah. They kept the GM, who really hasn't surrounded Allen with talent, and other teams are on the rise in that division and conference. The window for Josh Allen was this past year. You had no Patty Mahomes. You had no Lamar Jackson. You had no Joe Burrow. You had help me out here. I was thinking of the Denver quarterback that played.
Drew, not Drew. Why can't I think of his name either?
Exactly.
Bo Nix.
No, who replaced Bo Nix in the AFC title game?
Who was it?
Regardless, you didn't have. We're talking hockey. We're talking UFC, and we blank on the most important part of the NFL. You didn't have the quarterbacks there to stop Josh Allen this year, and yet he didn't get it done. So do you agree with me that it would be McDavid before it would be Josh Allen?
Yes, I actually do agree. And yes, and it's so different to compare, but you're absolutely right. Connor McDavid is like Josh Allen, but a hockey version. And I would go Connor McDavid to win a Stanley Cup over Josh Allen to win a Super Bowl any day, because football's hard. And this season, with this amount of talent that we have on all these teams, very difficult. Also, is it Jared Stidham that we're thinking of? Okay.
Yeah, we were thinking Jared Stidham, and it skipped us because we're thinking Bo Nix. And that's who they had to beat was Jared. I mean, they had to beat Bo Nix because they lost to him. But Jared Stidham almost went to the Super Bowl, and not Bo Nix, not Josh Allen. So, and by the way, for McDavid, it very well could be this year. We just talked about the Carolina Hurricanes being happy that the Panthers might not be in there because the Hurricanes have been dominated by them. But the only thing standing between Connor McDavid and a Stanley Cup title has been the Florida Panthers. So if they're out, it's anybody's game. And you know what? The Oilers are not a bad price at 10-1. They're not the favorite, but they are a very solid team who has beaten the Stars in back-to-back years. They've beaten the Avalanche. So why not them? It could happen this year. I do think McDavid does get a trophy at some point. If not, he's going to go down like Dan Marino did and Patrick Ewing did and Karl Malone as the best to play their sport without winning a title. And it's not for lack of chances. Marino got to a Super Bowl in 2 AFC title games. You've seen Ewing got to 2 NBA finals. Karl Malone got to 2 NBA finals. Is Connor McDavid the same thing, or will he get it done? I think eventually he gets it done.
I hope so. I would like to see that, even though obviously you don't want to root for a Canadian team here, but
No.
I would like to see it. A great player is a great player regardless of team that he plays, and I would not be sad if I saw him win a Stanley Cup. Same goes for Austin Matthews, even though I don't like the Leafs.
And we're not going to say Josh Allen because as a Dolphins fan, I don't want them to. And if Josh Allen goes somewhere else, that's fine. I'm still bitter that Miami didn't take him because for whatever reason, I can't explain other than that my wife went to University of New Mexico. I watched a lot of Mountain West games. So I bet on a lot of Wyoming games. And I knew Josh Allen was going to be good. Did I know he was going to be this good? Did anybody know Patrick Mahomes was going to be this good? I wanted the Miami Dolphins to draft Josh Allen. They didn't. And it's been a nightmare ever since. Oof. But as long as Buffalo doesn't win a Super Bowl, we're fine.
There we go.
This has been a blast. Minty, where can people find your content at FanDuel and on the socials? And this is your time to sell whatever you need to sell. Where can people find you?
All right. Well, on Instagram and X, you can follow me at Minty Bets. That's all one word, no space. TikTok, Minty Bets with 2 S's at the end. And I go live every Monday on FanDuel's TikTok, Monday night, just to have a nice Monday night chat, talk about hockey, basketball, whatever we want to talk about. It's always very live in the chat. So yeah, follow me across all socials, X, Instagram, and TikTok.
And she's on every single Friday on FanDuel Sports Network on Countdown Live, right around 6 o'clock Eastern time. You can catch her on Friday the 13th. She'll be on. There'll be the second straight Friday the 13th that you'll be on. So you'll be on there, February and March have the same days as long as there's no leap year. So she's Minty Bets. I'm David Bearman. This is the Betting with Bearman podcast presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make sure you check out all of Minty's work at FanDuel and online at Twitter X. And make sure you get those winning bets for UFC 326.